Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Volquest podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Rob Lewis, Austin Price, and Brent Hubbs. Appreciate you guys joining us here on the Volquest podcast. We do it every single Tuesday. We'll have the mailbag edition of the show coming up on Thursday when we answer plenty of your questions. A lot going on right now in terms of recruiting. The 865 Live event coming up here towards the end of the month. We got some things happening in terms of Tennessee trying to get prospects on campus, where they leave with certain prospects and all that and more. So we'll discuss that here later in the show. Updated SEC football win totals by FanDuel. Tennessee ahead of 6 of their 8 opponents. That's not too bad. Only Georgia and Alabama have a higher win total on the schedule. What's that mean? We'll discuss that later on. But first, let's talk about the Tennessee baseball team. Another series loss, unfortunately, losing 6 of the past 7 to end the season. 5 straight weekends, 5 straight rubber matches. Tennessee drops down to number 21 in the polls. You look at the field of 64 projections, pretty much universally, they're now a 2 seed. We'll see what happens in Hoover. They could potentially jump back on the 1 seed line to host a regional. At this point, they don't deserve to, in my opinion. Overall, it's just that next phase of the season, Brent Hubbs, and it's a phase that needs to be better for Tennessee. So much talent there. No one's ever disputed the talent that's on the roster, but not been playing well the last 6 weeks, and now you enter postseason play here in Hoover and then regionals where need to kick it in gear because the earth's getting bigger in the window.
Yeah, don't steal my line. You can't have my line, man. That's my line. But you're exactly right. And I think that, I think at this point you're probably thinking more of kind of this is who they are as opposed to they're going to flip the switch and something, magical is going to suddenly pop up and go from there. I mean, some individuals played better this weekend, did some things there, but collectively they still didn't get it done. And I don't know. I think it's fascinating to see kind of where their mindset is going into postseason play with it, being do or die type situation. What are they trying to get accomplished in Hoover at this point? How do you manage that whole, this whole week with that? And then, where are you in terms of how you go about postseason play? I mean, anything can happen. We know you can flip you can get hot at the right time. It's just it feels like we've been waiting on this Tennessee team to get hot for a long time, and they haven't gotten hot, Eric.
No, they haven't. I thought the last 2 weeks specifically, the at-bats have been better, and I recognize too many men left on base. I mean, you're never going to bat 1,000. But, I mean, Tennessee scored runs offensively this past weekend. Tennessee was really good with runners in scoring position the first 2 games. Tennessee out-hit Arkansas, I think, by 3 overall. So you're seeing improvements, you said specifically with some individual players. I think offensively you saw some improvements, but still couldn't quite put it together, Austin. And, when it came down to it, Tennessee scored 10 runs on Thursday and almost lost. No lead was safe. Scored, 6 runs on Friday and lost, and then 4 on Sunday and lost. Just didn't have enough pitching to go along to win that series in Arkansas.
Yeah, what did we say last week? I think we talked about the fact that Liam Doyle has been fantastic, and the reason Tennessee's been able to at least have these rubber matches. And he was due a down outing, and Arkansas hit him really hard on Friday night in Game 2. You thought after you won Game 1, okay, here's a real chance we could possibly win this series if you're Tony Vitello. All of a sudden, here you are right back in on Saturday in a winner take all Game 3, and Tennessee just has still too many fielding errors. But there are some positives as you just talked about. The hitting seemed to get a little bit of a spark. My question is what approach do you take in Hoover? I would tell you just go in there and throw a bullpen game first game, get eliminated, and come on back home and rest up. That's what I would tell you to do. But I mean, again, this team has went to the championship game 2 times in the last 3 years and won it. So, I don't think they really have that in their mindset.
It's kind of one of those things where, and I think Tony actually mentioned it in a pre-Hoover media availability last year. Like, he didn't come out and say, hey, this doesn't matter. Like, he would never say that. But he said, we have a checklist of things that we need to do and we need to work on, and that is the focus. Whereas winning the whole thing's not necessarily focused, because next weekend with regionals is much more important than what's happening this weekend. And so I think that's kind of the mindset. Now, last year you were entering the SEC tournament as the number 1 overall seed. The last 2 times you won the SEC tournament, last year and in 2022, you were the number 1 overall seed. So it's a bit different. Tennessee still has a chance to, potentially be a host NCAA regionals if you win a couple of games in Hoover. So maybe that goes into the mindset of like, how are you going to do your pitching and all that. But I'm with you, Austin. Tennessee's lost 6 of the last 7. They lost 5 straight. If I'm a committee member, I'm not awarding Tennessee a host line right now. I'm just not. Now, if Tennessee beats Alabama on Wednesday, if Alabama handles business over Missouri, that's a nice RPI win. If Tennessee were to beat Texas, that would be a very nice RPI win. So things can change. I think Tennessee would need some help. But it is going to be interesting, Brent, to see kind of how Tennessee goes about its pitching plans. I think A.J. Russell is an excellent candidate to start Wednesday. I think Michael Sharman is an excellent candidate to start on Wednesday. And then if you win that game, you do get to your Marcus Phillips on Thursday, Liam Doyle on Friday, and then Tegan Coons if you need him on Saturday. I don't see them bumping those guys up. Marcus Phillips bumped up on 2 short days of rest last week. I don't think they want to bump him up another day. Liam Doyle has been dealing with a blister the last month. I don't think it'd be in his best interest to bump up a day at all. But it will be interesting to see kind of how they go about this early in the week. I'm not sure who they'll start on Wednesday, but I do think A.J. Russell makes a ton of sense, and or Michael Sharman, who's kind of been that midweek starter.
Well, I think this is, Rob, I think this is an interesting dilemma for any coach, regardless of sport. We talk about it in basketball sometimes, what's the point of the SEC tournament, and other things along the line, like what's the benefit, of doing these things. I think when you're playing and you're struggling the way that they're struggling, I don't, maybe your approach to it is different. And I'm not saying, I'm with Eric. I don't think you change your pitching rotation on terms of number of days rest for guys, you stay in that deal. But I just wonder if the mindset and the mental approach and even the emotional approach to this is different based on how you've played the last month compared to a team. If you were a team who had played, pretty well and this tournament wasn't really a factor. And I don't think Tennessee can win a host deal, but do you just need to win for some good vibes, Rob?
Yeah, I can see all sides of it. I can see, I can co-sign AP's point, like, let's just take a week off and try to recoup. And I can definitely, see why people would be, on board with your angle, Hubbard. Let's try to generate some momentum because, I'm not in the weeds with it like Eric is. I watched the baseball team like a fan. And to me, they just don't have the swagger that they've had the past couple of years. And I would probably lean towards your take, Hubbard, like go down and try to win, 2 or 3 in a row and get some juice, get some mojo. Because as somebody who's not around it like Eric is all the time, but who, follows it in the spring and has a good time watching it, it's just they just don't have the juice that they've had in the past, the bounce. And obviously losing 6 out of 7 series probably contributes to that. But yeah, I think that going on a 4 or 5 game winning streak in a tournament would be, maybe something that lights a fire under them. But it's been a weird year for sure.
Yeah, it'd be big because Tennessee's not won back-to-back SEC games since beating Ole Miss in Game 3 on April the 13th and then taking Kentucky April the 18th in the series opener. So, it's been a while since Tennessee. It was that incredible stat last year where Tennessee lost back-to-back SEC games one time. It was the opening weekend of SEC play. Tennessee's not won back-to-back SEC games, gosh, in about a month, which is incredible when you sit here and think about it. So, yeah, take hosting out of the conversation. Again, I'm not trying to be, just down in the dumps here, but you lost 6 of your last 7. You don't deserve to host, in my opinion, okay? What you do need to is you need to get some good vibes. You need to get some good feelings right now. And so going down there to Hoover, taking the hosting conversation out of it, just winning some games, getting some mojo back, I think that's really, really important for sure. Building off what you did in Fayetteville this past weekend. Don't want to do moral victories and all that. But again, Game 3 was not fun. I get that. They left 30 men on base, which is atrocious. But there were a lot of positives on the offensive end. There were some positives from a couple of guys in the bullpen, right? Tanner Franklin had 2 scoreless outings. They played matchup there in Game 3. They brought Breedlove in to face Helfrich because he got him out the night before. It did not work out. But in Game 2, I thought Austin Breedlove took a big step for Tennessee, right? Build off that, see what happens, and then let the chips kind of fall where they may. Entering the week, according to D1 Baseball, the latest Field of 64 projections, and they're going to update this as all the outlets will throughout the week, Tennessee is the number 2 seed in the Atlanta region. Georgia Tech is the number 16 overall seed, so Tennessee would travel down a couple hours to Atlanta and be in that region along with Arizona State. Columbia, who was the first official team to punch its ticket, winning the Ivy League on Sunday. But we've seen Tennessee going to Atlanta in a couple of projections, seen Tennessee last week going to Morgantown in West Virginia. I know Alabama, West Virginia, Georgia Tech, along with Tennessee, kind of in that bubble of hosting right now. But it feels like, and that's kind of how they do these regionals, they're going to try to keep Tennessee close, regional based if they are a 2 seed, and that would be ideal for the fans, and I think ideal for Tennessee, who plays better on the road.
If for Tennessee, and you mentioned the possibility of Russell starting this first game, is he the biggest X factor for where this thing is? If Tennessee is going to be able to navigate a regional, Eric, is it kind of like he's got to? It's his time. Like he's going to have to do it if he's going to do it. Or is there somebody who you think is better suited to be, quote, the third starter to help you navigate a regional right now, as opposed to A.J. Russell going, 4 or 5 innings? I thought he threw the ball well, but it just didn't have the longevity. So is he better in that role? Is he better than? Do you look at, hey, can we get a game to the 5th and he's going to stretch us out for a couple innings till we get to Snead at the end to close it? Like, how do you manage and deal with A.J. Russell as you move into do or die time in postseason play? I guess is my question.
Yeah, it's definitely now's the time, right? It's if you're going to do it, you do it now. And I think in a regional setup, you kind of just take it game by game, because potentially you'll need a 4th starter, playing into Monday potentially. If you drop a game, then win a game, then win a game.
Starter? Much less a 4th. Who's the 3rd starter?
Yeah, exactly. It's been Tegan Kuhns the last little bit, and I thought that he's pitched well. He didn't pitch well at Arkansas, and I know that's a big-time lineup. But, for A.J. Russell, he can do a number of different things. Longevity, though, is, kind of a hurting point, to your point. He didn't give up a run the other night, but it got kind of dicey there towards the end of his outing. Got kind of dicey towards the end of his outing against Auburn, when he's going 2 to 3 innings or whatever. But he is a guy that started before. He's kind of your swing man now. He's another Nate Snead in that role where he can kind of do a number of different things. So, yeah, to your point, I think that he's a guy that can step up and start in Hoover. I think he's a guy that can step up and, start in, one of those games in the regional. If it goes to a Monday, absolutely. If he's not been burned already, he can pitch that game. I think that's a really nice weapon to have if you're Tony Vitello. And I do think that if he's kept clean, he can give you 4 to 5 innings right now. We haven't seen that out of the pen for the most part, because he's kind of got dicey there towards the end. They had to go get him. But, built up, I think that he can give you 5 innings if he's kept clean. And I think that'd be huge for this team right now.
Are you surprised that they have played matchup baseball the way that they have with the bullpen, as opposed to, hey, let's see if a guy can get us a full inning or 2 full innings to help us get deeper in the pen? Are you surprised that it's, and I know they get to use, when you only go 1 batter or 2 batters, you get to use them back-to-back days and that type of thing. But are you surprised that they played as much matchup baseball as they have with the bullpen from, say, the 4th inning to the 8th inning, the way that it feels like they have?
I was surprised they went matchup as early on as the 5th inning on Thursday in Game 1. Bringing Dylan Loy in for 1 batter in the 5th inning, that's like you burnt you needed Dylan Loy later in the game, right? You needed Dylan Loy in the 8th and 9th inning, but you burned him after 1 batter. And then you had Tanner Franklin that came in. And I don't hate that as well. Like, Tanner Franklin come in, get 1 batter. He did well in that role against Alabama. He's done it at points in time. So, the fact that Tennessee played matchup so early in Game 1, I thought was a bit surprising. But Tony Vitello said several times that when the margin for error is so thin right now, you kind of go all in. You push all your chips in the middle of the table and try to get that Game 1 win, and that's kind of what they did. So I don't hate playing matchups, but when your bullpen is thin to begin with, and you burn a guy like Dylan Loy for 1 batter in the 5th inning on Thursday, I thought that kind of hurt Tennessee the rest of the way. But normally, you feel good about Nate Snead protecting a 4 or 5 run lead. It's just, he's kind of struggled in that role at times this year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they play it. I think that Austin, I feel sometimes they've gotten a little bit cute with some stuff, and just instead of just kind of let's shove it for 4 or 5 outs here and get it to where Snead's only pitching in the 9th, or whatever the case may be. I'm just a little surprised at some of the matchup stuff that they have played. And I understand Dylan Loy, you don't want him to go through the hole of water. You don't want anybody to see him a second time. I get some of those things, but I go back to, I thought at LSU in that game that they gave up, where Snead couldn't finish it off. I mean, I was surprised they didn't start the 8th inning with whoever was in the game at that point. Maybe it was Franklin or whoever. They've played a lot of matchup baseball with a bullpen that's been shaky, which means to me you're depending on a lot more bodies, and I don't know how dependable some of those bodies have been from a consistency standpoint all season long.
Sorry, Austin, but what bugs me on that point, I think it was the Vanderbilt series last weekend. They brought A.J. Russell in. It was like a leadoff walk for whatever inning he came in. Like it was a leadoff walk or whatever, and then brought A.J. Russell. Like, why not start the inning, a clean inning, with A.J. Russell out of the bullpen? Like that like he ended up giving up that run. It wasn't charged to him, but that stuff's annoying to me. It's like every single out is huge, and I recognize all that, but like they get so microscopic in those regards where it's just like, well, just let the guy pitch out of the bullpen for a clean inning. Sorry, go ahead, AP.
I was just saying, at the end of the day, the time for tinkering with the bullpen, the lineup, all that is, I mean, I guess you could say you can do it again in Hoover. You've got to, lock in and just ride with your guys. And if, to Hubs' point, sometimes you've got to just fit the round peg in a square hole and not, try to be too, out over your skis with stuff. Just ride with some of these guys that have experience and go from there. You started to see, Dalton Bargo. Look at him at just the beginning of the year. It wasn't even really a starter, and he's been one of your better hitters most of the year. Just kind of get a plan and go with it, and stick to it and see what happens.
Tennessee was well represented on the All-SEC teams. We'll hit on this real quick before we shift gears. Some positives here. All-SEC teams were announced yesterday, and Liam Doyle, the SEC Pitcher of the Year, no shock there. First team All-SEC, led the nation in the regular season with 137 strikeouts. He was second with ERA in the league. He was second with opposing batting average. Phenomenal transfer. Andrew Fisher, transfer as well. Very much in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year, led the league with home runs, slugging percentage, on base percentage. He reached base safely. This is an incredible stat that kind of gets lost, and it's unfortunate that on base streaks aren't kept in the Tennessee record book because, I would assume this is probably it, right? He reached base safely in all 56 regular season games this year. Incredible stat for Andrew Fisher. Phenomenal year. He was all first team All-SEC. Kind of a surprise here. Gavin Keelan was first team All-SEC because you look at his splits, and his splits are not very good in SEC play, but nonetheless, finished top 10 in batting average and all that and more. Leads Tennessee in batting average. Good player. Hunter Inslee, second team All-SEC and all defensive team member as an outfielder. And Hunter Inslee at the plate this year, leading Tennessee with 60 RBI at 350 batting average. That's top 15 in the league. Really, really good year for Hunter Inslee. So, congrats to those guys on the All-SEC, and we'll see what happens here in postseason. Let's shift gears here before Tennessee gets going in Hoover tomorrow morning. Let's talk a little Tennessee recruiting. 865 Live is coming up. Austin Price, kind of where's Tennessee in terms of the pecking order of some of these highly touted prospects? I know that some of the coaches have been out on the road. You guys broke that down. You and Matt did in the War Room last week. What's the latest in Tennessee recruiting? What do we have to look forward to ahead of 865 Live?
A lot of in-state kids going to be in here this weekend. Obviously Iverson Garcia, the kid from Powell, will be here. Joel Wyatt will be here. Craig Tutt will be in town. It's a big weekend for Craig Tutt in Tennessee, in my opinion. Tennessee's got to continue to make a move with Craig Tutt. Outside the state, I'm interested to see what running backs make it to town. Obviously Tennessee has been trying to get, Amari Latimer here for it feels like
a year.
It feels like forever. And we'll see if he makes it to town, right? I'd be interested to kind of see what running backs make it to town. And if they were to miss on their top couple of targets here, where do they go from here? Because, you've seen like the Walton kid, he's, I think, committed to Notre Dame. We're leaning to Notre Dame. That's not going to be a Tennessee pick. And he liked Tennessee a good amount. But, again, Tennessee had him kind of on the back burners. And, we'll kind of see where things go. But, Hezekiah Harris, edge from down in Alabama, expected to be in town. A number of different guys. But the ones I really look at are the in-state guys because you want to close out Joel Wyatt. You want to land Craig Tutt. All those things matter. And then sprinkling some of these other out-of-state guys.
Savion Hyder. I know that Darrell Sims is out there seeing him.
Yeah.
I know Joey Halls has gone and saw him a little bit. Well, what's the latest with him? Obviously, one of the biggest fish Tennessee's trying to get in this class.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee's obviously trying like crazy to get him down here this weekend. No commitment from Savion at this point to get down, and then we'll see where things go. But to me, it's Tennessee and Michigan. They're the top two teams. And number one running back in the country for a reason. Fantastic player, and Tennessee's right there. I think they were in that 3-4 spot a couple months ago. I think this spring was big. Visit down here in early April was huge, and things have continued to trend in the right direction. I think Michigan and Tennessee are kind of 1-2. I'm not saying who's 1 or 2. I'm just saying I think they're the top two teams, with Ohio State and Georgia being in that 3-4 hole now.
Gabriel Ascenda saw a pretty big bump in recruiting rankings on another site. Ellerby was down there to see a spring practice. I think Matt Ray was down there as well. How has he grown this offseason, kind of getting this next phase of the recruitment ahead of his senior year? It seems like, the video that Matt Ray put out there, the dude is still big, and the dude can still move very, very well.
Yeah, he has a great bend, and you're right. He is a mountain. I'll never forget the kid walked up behind me last year on campus, and I turned around and there was like a shadow, like a mountain shadow, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" He was big. And Rob, you can't teach size. You can make him. You can make him a little bit faster with some work, but you can't. Contrary to Barney Fife, you can't put him in the stretching machine over in the closet and make him bigger.
That's still another Hubbard phrase. You can't. Speed never had a bad day.
That's exactly right. And the athleticism when you have, and I think that's the thing with him. He's, again, still a raw player, but when you have that combination of speed and athleticism, it stands out. And I think, Austin, if you're looking at positives, it sounds like he doesn't want to take any other visits at this point in time. I know a lot of people are still going to try to come after him. It sounds like Tyreek King's not going to take any visits. Those are two positive developments from Tennessee that kind of go under the radar if those guys aren't going to bounce around and see other schools, because they have opportunities to see anybody they want to in the country. That's a good thing for Tennessee if those two guys are solid. Faison's been solid. We know some schools are coming after them. That's a great foundational piece if those guys aren't going to look around at other schools.
Absolutely. You look back at two players that Tennessee is hoping to get here this weekend. We don't know if they'll be here, but Tyson Bacon, defensive lineman from the state of Alabama, and then Brandon Anderson, offensive lineman from Georgia, both committed to Tennessee early in the process, both continued to take a bajillion visits, and eventually said, you know what, I'm taking so many visits, I'm going to decommit. Tennessee's still in a factor for both. Tennessee's still actively recruiting both really, really heavily, but they were taking on 3 million visits. And when you're doing that, how locked in are you? Well, Lucinda, Tyreek King, to your point, aren't. And that tells you kind of their commitment level. Faison Brandon, same thing. To this point, has not taken any visits, has been totally shut down, and from all accounts is shut down, and kind of the leader of the class. So we'll see where it goes. Again, it's a sprinkling some out-of-state guys this weekend, but it's a big weekend for the in-state players, especially ones that Tennessee is starting to turn the heat up on.
Speaking of in-state, Austin, are you surprised in any way at how much movement Tennessee has made in state in 26, 27, even 28 in terms of offers? I know a couple of them were legacy kids when you talk about JP Peace, and that's one that they've been evaluating for a long time. Kevin Simon's son, long time evaluation there. But are you surprised at how much Tennessee is really going earlier in state on some players than we've seen maybe them go with some guys in the past? I know they were very deliberate with Simon and Peace because they're legacy kids. I think you have to handle those situations a little bit different. But you're talking about the kid from Greenville, the kid from Powell, other players in the state. They've been pretty fast and pretty early in offering guys, which is a little bit out of the norm sometimes.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if there's been a shift in focus, right? To let's go heavy in state and then sprinkle in some great players out of state. Instead of just, basically if you're going to take some players that maybe are not ready right away, you're better to take them in state than you are out of state. because in-state kids have a little more affection and affinity for the home state team and are probably a little bit more willing to be patient than a kid out of state who maybe fancies himself as a starter coming in and is really a year or two away. That makes me wonder if that's been a shift in change in direction. I don't know. But certainly they're in a number of different recruitments, whether it be Iverson Garcia, obviously, the kid from Greenville, who's a burner, the kid from Franklin, Javonte Smith out of Jackson. I wouldn't call any of those highly rated players, but they all have some qualities that, make you wonder, okay, like, it's kind of like Deshaun Bishop a few years ago. Like, everybody was like, in-state, about 5 million carries. And then he just is super productive. Anderson at Greenville, super productive. Same thing with Iverson Garcia at Powell. Question is, does it translate to this level? I don't know. Time will tell.
Obviously, the focus on this class, A65 Live and all that, but as we've discussed here, a lot of in-state talent. Specifically, you look ahead to 2027, and you guys highlight a couple of guys in the war room. There's a running back down in Chattanooga that is 210 pounds and a pass catcher out of the backfield. That intrigues me. The 210 pounds intrigues me because they have always wanted a bigger back. They've been looking for that, obviously. That's one to look forward to. And then a guy you and I actually called on Rivalry Thursday from Brentwood Academy, Keyshawn Bowman, I believe is his name. A lot of talent there. What stands out about those two guys, obviously, early in their recruitments?
Well, David Georges is arguably the top running back in the country for 27. I mean, he is a fantastic player, Canadian kid, came in last year and was better than Shakai Mills Knight on Shakai Mills Knight's team. He was fantastic for Baylor and will be totally the bell cow this year. Really fantastic speed, especially at his size. And then Keyshawn Bowman, the kid can play. He's long, he's rangy, he's got speed. And, again, it's all about getting him the football. Last year he had George McIntyre. The question is who gets him the ball this year.
And the Baylor Canadian pipeline is the craziest thing. Like that just seems so crazy that Baylor has found this pipeline into players from Canada the way that they have and what that's turned into. But again, the state, Rob, you know this. You've covered it and everything. It's just so vastly different now in the state of Tennessee in terms of the amount of talent that this state has compared to where it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's a credit to the development of players, the growth of the state from a population standpoint, but obviously the focus in high school football in the state of Tennessee, because it's no longer just about Nashville or Memphis. They're all over the place in the state of Tennessee now, which is great to see because there's a lot of good high school football being played in this state.
How many times did we? How many years in between 2000 and 2010 did Tennessee not even sign 10 kids from mid-state? And not because they had a bunch of misses, because there weren't 10 kids they wanted.
Yeah, there was a ton of years that they didn't take 10. It's just different, AP, and you've seen the growth of it, and the evolution of it is up close as anybody. Used to you think about going on a state tour, and you're like, all right, we go from one end of the state to the other, and maybe you see 8 or 10 kids, and now you can see 8 kids in a region in a heartbeat of players, which is a credit.
Since you guys have been doing Rivalry Thursday. It used to be pretty rare for there to be an SEC athlete on one of your games, and now, how many? Maybe not every week, but it's
no. I've noticed that in recent years. I'm like, we've seen some pretty decent talent, more so than like when I first started with you guys, or certainly 15 years ago. Like you don't see it every single week, but a couple of times throughout the season.
It's not uncommon at all.
Yeah, you see some legit Division I prospects.
Yeah, it certainly has improved, and the kids are training all year round, and the coaching I think has gotten better. The style of football has gotten better. Heck, you're not too far removed from several teams running wing tees, and now that's like unless you're Oakland, and they can still do it in mid-state titles. It just doesn't happen a whole lot. And even Kevin Creech will tell you it's a modified wing tee. He still throws it some.
My favorite recent wing tee team was Ray County, first round of the playoffs. They played Powell when Nolan was there, and they put Walter Nolan at the nose. And they, foot-to-foot splits running that wing tee, and they put Walter Nolan in there, and he went from guard to guard, and he just ate it all up.
He was the bowling. He was the bowling ball, or better yet, he was the hammer, and they were the nail.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, lots going on in terms of recruiting, and of course, we'll keep you covered this weekend and the rest of the summer. Big official visits coming up as well right here at Volquest.com. Let's shift gears. Let's look at the win totals per FanDuel. Updated win totals for the Southeastern Conference. Alabama, Georgia, and Texas leading the way at 9.5, and that's where Tennessee was prior to the departure of Nico Iamaleava. Since that happened, Tennessee dropped down to 8.5, along with LSU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. 7.5 is Auburn, Missouri, South Carolina, Texas A&M. You have Florida, which is at 6.5, Oklahoma 6.5, Arkansas 5.5, Kentucky 4.5, Vanderbilt 4.5, and Mississippi State 3.5. What I want to make a point to you guys, look at this here. Megan put it up. From Florida down on the right side, Tennessee plays all those teams. Okay, so Tennessee is, in terms of win-loss total number, Tennessee is higher than 6 of its 8 SEC opponents. Only Alabama and Georgia come in more than Tennessee at 9.5. The schedule lines up. This isn't breaking news. The schedule lines up for Tennessee to hit that over, and if things click, we'll see what happens. Ton of questions, quarterback being the biggest one. I recognize that. But when you look at the win totals out there, you look at the schedule, very favorable for Tennessee, just as it was a season ago.
Yeah, when I saw that graphic and saw the FanDuel stuff, I mean, the biggest thing that jumped out to me, and I guess it's because their schedule is really hard. Florida at 6.5.
I know.
I think Florida is better than that. Their win total may not be a whole lot higher than that because they play a bunch of those teams over on the other side. But I think Florida's going to win more than 6 games or 6.5 games this year. Oklahoma's a fascinating deal to me too, Rob, because you got a new offensive coordinator and he brings his quarterback with him. What does Oklahoma look like offensively, and how much does that become sort of the new coordinator is the offensive head coach and Brent Venables is the defensive head coach, and they kind of have an identity on offense, which they really haven't had since Brent Venables has been here. I think that's something interesting to watch for that Oklahoma team. Just how do they grow and develop? How much better are they in November than they are earlier in the year? I feel like you want to catch them maybe earlier in the year than you do later in the year if they can stay healthy. But again, that marriage may not work at Oklahoma. I mean, that's just there's a lot of unknowns with some of those teams, and Oklahoma is one of those that has a lot of talent, but they got a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, those two, Florida and Oklahoma, I thought were interesting as well. And Hubbard, maybe I don't have any evidence for this, but I feel like Venables is a good coach. I mean, he doesn't have a track record yet. I feel like he's going to prove it. I would, and conversely, I'm not sure about Sunbelt Billy, so I would like Oklahoma over more than Florida, even though Florida Lagway's obviously a dude. But man, I like, maybe I'm just too close to him. I like Tennessee over 8.5 quite a bit. What do you guys think?
I mean, I do too. I mean, I've talked about it a lot on my show. There's so many questions. Again, the biggest one being quarterback. I'm not trying to hide behind that, but I like the collection of running backs. I think the offensive line has a chance to be pretty decent, and it will get better as the year goes along as David Sanders continues to grow. Wide receivers is kind of washed for me. I know that sounds harsh, but wide receivers were not great last year. Defense, I've got a lot of stock in this defense. When healthy, and I'm not saying they'll be healthy snap one game one because of McCoy. When healthy, I think the secondary is going to be pretty dang good. So, Rob, I'm with you, man. I really like the collection of talent on this team. I like the roster. Got to get some questions answered, but I mean, I like Tennessee at the over at 8.5 for sure. Simply because, again, Florida, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. Tennessee has the entire right column minus 2 teams, whereas a team like Florida plays the majority on the left side.
Yeah, I'm not predicting to win the SEC, but I like them to win 9.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me, Austin, is do they play better on the road? I mean, they just haven't been a great road team. What happens? I mean, you're going to Alabama, you're going to Florida. You haven't won at Florida in, a long time. Let's leave it that way. So, how does Tennessee play on the road? Georgia at home. I mean, that's the one team you've not been able to beat since you've been here for Josh Heupel. We don't know what Georgia's going to look like. I kind of like getting Georgia early if you're Tennessee, but can they go play on the road? To me, is the big question, Austin. That they just haven't done and they haven't been really good on the road, and they're playing 2 teams on the road that it's probably going to be an upset to win either one of them based on their history at Florida and based on where Alabama's projected.
What's that signature win for Tennessee? Because keep the you look at that schedule right there. Say Tennessee were to drop Georgia at home early in the year. Say Tennessee were to lose on the road at Alabama and Florida. That late loss to Florida being the third loss, is that enough to knock them out of the college football playoff conversation based on if you win everything else? I mean, what's that win Tennessee's got to get this year in order to be at the end of the season sitting there right in the middle of it?
It's Georgia or Alabama for me. You either got to beat Georgia at home, you get them early. They've still got, Stockton's played, but he's not like some, juggernaut quarterback. They're not what they have been. They're still great, but they're still not what they have been. They're not invincible like they were a few years ago. So to me, it's either at home against Georgia or on the road at Alabama. What's Alabama look like? The best thing to me going for Josh Heupel in this football program is the 8.5 total, because they're going to fly a little bit under the radar now, right? I mean, compared to other teams. If Nico was here and you're at that 9.5 line, your number is the same as the top teams in the conference. You drop down one win, you fly a little bit under the radar. Tennessee's going to be picked finish middle of the pack in the SEC when they go down to the SEC, media days in July. I mean, people are going to sleep on Tennessee. I think that's the best thing going for them, is they can kind of, fly under the radar and kind of figure out what they have at quarterback, what they don't have, and then we'll see what happens in all these other positions where there is a lot of question marks.
Well, I think the fascinating thing for this league in general, Rob, when you look at it is the unknown at quarterback. Everybody's bullish on Alabama at 9.5, and that's banking a lot on Ty Simpson being the quarterback. Austin just mentioned Gunnar Stockton. I think we all believe that Arch Manning is going to be a really good player, right? We just talked about Oklahoma's situation at quarterback.
New quarterback at Ole Miss.
Yeah. How much of a step does DJ Lagway take? What does Ole Miss quarterback situation look like? I mean, this is not the year of the quarterback in the SEC.
I mean, LSU's maybe the best spot.
Yeah. Unless DJ Lagway, but yeah.
Arch is obviously, potential talent, but, as far as experience and proven, I think LSU's probably the best spot. I don't love that guy. Do you all?
He turns it over way too much, but he certainly has an arm, and they're going to throw it 50 times with him. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over.
I mean, Sellers may be the best quarterback in the league, or most productive guy in the league at South Carolina. How much did they have to go around him? They had all the momentum at the end of last year. Where are they at, and what do they look like? But this is a very different year in this league from a quarterback standpoint. I mean, a year ago you had Carson Beck, you had Quinn Ewers, you had Jalen Milroe, you had Jackson Dart. I mean, you were established at a lot of the quarterback position at a lot of places last year, which to me changes the outlook and puts a lot more kind of jumbled up together group of teams in this league than you would have had last year. I'm not saying that there's not a separation of have and have nots, but the quarterback deal and the unknowns there changes how defined the haves and the have nots are in my mind.
I mean, the crazy part is if Aguilar wins the job, he's arguably, if not the most, one of the top 2 or 3 most experienced quarterbacks in the league as far as just playing time.
Yeah. I mean, he's played a lot. I mean, and that again, it's just a different league from that standpoint. And I know it cycles from time to time, but it's a pretty big cycle right now in terms of the turnover at the quarterback position.
Speaking of Joey Aguilar, he's been on campus for about a week right now. What's that week look like, guys, in terms of what he's been allowed to do, what he's done? I know a lot of the players are home right now for the 10 days they get to be home. What's his week look like arriving in Knoxville?
Well, I mean, you got settled for where you're going to live. You got to get you get all that stuff settled and taken care of, and then it's on him. However, how much does he want to? How much does he study film? He's been in the building a lot. I think he's watching as much film as he can get. He understands what's in front of him and the challenge that he has with, fall camp being August 1. It's, how much can he get up to speed on learning things to where he can have an idea of what's going on when they get into, the volunteer off-season work. And this would be a perfect year for OTAs. If that ever came about, it would be a great year for that to happen at this situation. But it's about how much he can absorb and what he can learn in the film room and learn on the chalkboard with the coaching staffs as much as he can here until everybody gets back in town and gets cranked up on June the 3rd or whatever date that is, June 2nd, I guess.
Absolutely. It's all about a cram session, and the whole summer is going to be a cram session, which means that not only does he have to be bought into it, but so does Joey Halsley and Seth Luttrell and Josh Heupel and everybody. I mean, anybody on that offensive side that would potentially help a quarterback, it's got to be helping this kid, because you want to have all of your quarterbacks up to speed. Obviously, Merklinger has the most experience in the offense, and that will help him in fall camp when they go into competition. Aguilar has the most experience overall, but no experience in the offense. So, he's got to lean on those coaches and really realistically probably lean on, George and Jake to show him the ropes a little bit too. And that's always hard because, you're going to be competing against those guys.
But here's another guy that nobody talks about that I wonder how much he could help Joey Aguilar, and that's Landry Jones. Landry Jones is an analyst who's been here not very long, but he knows the Josh Heupel system. Is his greatest attribute as he tries to learn how to be a coach, be just a mentor to Joey in terms of the offense. I know it's tweaked a little bit. It's changed some things, but that's a guy who came in and had to learn it, pretty quickly at Oklahoma and get going that way. How much of a help is he in just Joey trying to be a sponge off of him, of just that being an extra set of eyes who can talk to him in more recent coaching terms and sort of break down some of the stuff that Joey and Josh Heupel are talking about to Aguilar. He's never talked about, but I wonder how much of an asset he could be to Joey Aguilar here over the next few weeks as things get going this summer.
Big summer coming up for Joey Aguilar. Big summer coming up for Tennessee's coaching staff in terms of recruiting. The class of 2026, things are about to get going. A65 Live, you got recruiting official visits in the month of June, all that and more. Commitments coming after that, and never too early to look ahead to a really talented in-state crop of 2027 athletes as well. We got you covered right here at Volquest.com. Baseball heading down to Hoover for the SEC tournament. We will see what happens with the Volunteers. If a couple wins mean that maybe they jump back into the hosting conversation, we'll see about that. And of course, never a bad time to discuss Tennessee basketball as well on the General's Quarters. We got it all for you right here at VolQuest.com. Come check us out. $1 for 7 days, $1 for your first week at VolQuest.com. If you like us, stick around and take advantage of this deal. We got you for $1 your first week over at VolQuest.com. For Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, Rob Lewis, I'm Eric Kane. Thank you so much for joining us here. We'll be back on Thursday morning with the mailbag portion of the show, but this is the VolQuest Podcast.